This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Oh, what's going on, everybody? Happy Friday and welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Great to have you with us. Andrew Paterson along with Michael Remis, and we have a great show heading into the weekend. It's got that big fight feel. Vegas is humming right now. Just did the lock shop and talked to our pal Chris Abbott, who is in Vegas. The biggest fight of the year for the UFC is happening. It's Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier. And we'll get into a little McGregor talk with my man Aaron Bronsteter coming up in about 15 minutes. Really looking forward to that. And then, of course, with CFL training camps opening this weekend and the Bombers getting to work tomorrow, what better time to preview Bomber training camp, all the positional battles, new players, familiar faces, and more with Eddie Tait of BlueBombers.com coming up a little bit later on. As always, we're brought to you by our wonderful family of sponsors, including Little Brown Jug Brewing, Royal Sports, Boston Pizza, Not AutoCorp, the Nick and Nicky DQ Group, Breezy Bend Country Club, Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge, Assiniboia Downs, and Coolbet.com. Welcome to everyone that is with us here live on YouTube, and of course everyone listening to the podcast. If you're with us on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button. Always appreciate the likes. Make sure you're subscribed. And for everyone listening on the pod, if you can, give us a 5-star rating and a little review. Certainly helps us grow the channel. What's going on? Oh, I see the 18 over par guys are here right now. I will give them a quick shout out. Did a fun pod recording with them last night, and that I believe is going to be coming out on Sunday. I'll tweet it out at Hustlerama, but I might want to give those guys a follow. Very fun. Talked some golf. Talked a bunch of things, including top condiments, which was something I could really get into. But speaking of condiments and food and funny takes, let's get the CTO, Michael Remis, in here. Remo, what's going on? How are you today? Are you ready for the weekend?
I'm here for, there's no hockey anymore, so I'm here for the condiment show. Let's go. I just used, are people going to get on me that I used like French's mustard instead of like a local made one that I bought at a farmer's market? Is that allowed?
Hey, try that smack dab mustard.
I've seen that one. Yeah, it's good.
It is, somebody bought me a jar of it, and it's amazing. I couldn't believe how good it is. But yes, I'm still a straight up yellow mustard guy on most items.
French, I got like 4 or 5 different brands of French's in my fridge right now, or like sub kinds of French's. Bold and spicy, honey Dijon, honey mustard. I might be missing one or two.
Big mustard guy. Well, I did. I mean, I'll blow it. This is a bit of a spoiler. But the final question I was asked was my favorite condiment. And you know that I am a big relish guy. I don't think relish is versatile enough to be the number one condiment, but I do feel that it's the most underrated. But mustard has to be number one. I mean, a world without mustard, frankly, is a world that I don't want to live in.
Yes, absolutely. Sandwiches, hot dogs. You can use it as like a marinade on stuff too. It's great. So big fan.
Listen, lots coming up as we get ready for the program. Well, as I said, Ed Tait's going to join us, and we'll get to the CFL talk, Bomber talk coming into training camp opening tomorrow, and the big fight on the weekend with Conor McGregor. Now, I will tell you, many of you probably were listening. If you're listening on the podcast, we're paying attention to Denis Shapovalov and Novak Djokovic in the Wimbledon men's semifinal. Right now, as we get in doing the show live, we're in the third set. Shapo's down 2-0. Lost the first set in a 7-6 tiebreaker, and then lost 7-5 in the second set. And Remis, I know you were paying attention. I mean, that first set was there for the taking for the young Canadian. Was up a break, was serving for the set. 30 all, made a brilliant play, had the winning point on his racket and put it out, giving Djokovic a break point. I think he actually saved that one, got it to deuce, but ended up losing the set. And listen, I mean, with an opportunity like that to go up 1-0 as a huge underdog against the number one player of the world, you just simply can't make those unforced errors. And it was simply 1 point, but that was really all Novak Djokovic needed to get back into that set. And, we're seeing why he is the best player on the planet right now. But Shapo is playing his ass off. I mean, he is really, really grinding. They're at 3-3 in the third set right now. And even if he does bow out in 3 sets, I think this will be one of those experiences that will make Denis Shapovalov a much better player going forward, because there's no substitute for experience. There's no substitute for competition against the best in the world. And there's certainly something special about doing it under the bright lights of center court at Wimbledon.
Yeah, watching the game, I see a lot of people on Twitter getting excited. I know Mitch in chat is getting fired up. But yeah, that first set, it was there. He was serving for it. And, I guess you said had the free point, not a free point, but he had to, put away a smash or whatever for the set, and couldn't quite do it. 7-6, 7-5 for Djokovic. It's now 3-3. Shapo's serving. So, we'll see, but I agree. After that first one, you can't be, there's a pretty thin margin of error against a player like Djokovic. And, you can't make mistakes like that and give away points, and it's been a tough one here. It's close, but at the first set, I was like, maybe I should have bet on Shapo at plus 800. But
I was thinking that too. Once I pull up, what? He's up a break. He's serving for the first set, and it was interesting. John McEnroe was doing the commentary for the match on TSN, and McEnroe sort of thought that Djokovic might be thinking that there'd be some nerves for Shapo and the first set would be sort of quick. Well, it wasn't that. It was a grind right till the end of the tiebreaker. But as I said, Djokovic was, returning serve, facing losing the set right now. So Denis is hanging in there. It's been an incredible tournament for him no matter what. But we'll see whether he can get back into this one, maybe win the third set, and give us something to pay attention to throughout the program here on Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Pliskova and Ash Barty is the women's final tomorrow. Talked about that one on the Lock Shop earlier today. If you missed it, by the way, check out your local podcast, your favorite podcast feed. Search Lock Shop. Dusty and I have another edition of that, and we're going in for the next couple months doing Wednesday shows before going back to twice a week once we get into NFL season.
Sorry, you sparked a lot of condiment talk in the chat. This is crazy. Tristan Rivers Music says, I feel left out. I try to avoid condiments. It means that the contents of the sandwich is so good that it's not needed. I use condiments to fix subpar meat. I don't know. I feel like a sandwich without condiments is like pretty dry.
Tristan, are you telling me like you eat a plain hot dog or a burger, you don't put anything on it? There are some people. Frank the Tank, one of my favorite food critics and hot dog connoisseurs on his series Raw Dogging with Frank the Tank, actually is another guy that does not put condiments on his dog. Yeah, listen, you could do that, but isn't everything better with with mustard? Or I got in a huge battle with a friend last night. We were talking about this same conversation I did with the 18 over par guys when we were watching the basketball game last night, and I didn't realize there was such heat between mayonnaise lovers and Miracle Whip lovers. I've always been a Miracle Whip guy, for sandwiches, and if you're making a tuna sandwich or something like that, I've loved Miracle Whip. But there are some people, I'm not sure, is Miracle Whip like a Kraft single as mayonnaise is to like a block of cheddar? Is that what it is, or is it? Well, that being said, I guess if you're talking to a cheese, I would probably rather have the good stuff. But when it comes to, like, if I'm making a sub or a sandwich or a burger or something, I'm on Team Miracle Whip over than Team Mayonnaise. I don't know what your take is on that, Reem.
I think I have like light mayo or like half mayo. I don't know if I'm going full board mayo, but I have some form in a nice squeeze bottle. Hockey off season. Everyone in here is talking about our condiment rankings. We may need a condiment like draft or something.
Yeah, well, I'll be honest. I'm happy to not talk about hockey for a couple weeks.
Mm-hmm.
We've had a great season. Everything's finished up right now, and in 2 weeks it will be. And really, let's face it, next week we'll be talking about the expansion draft. But expansion draft is 2 weeks away. I guess just under 3 weeks away. 21st is that date, and then of course the entry draft is the 23rd, which is 3 weeks today, and then we're basically talking Remis, but actually, no, that's 2 weeks today. Wow,
Yeah.
holy smokes.
It's
caught up.
Get your start studying the UFA lists. Start studying the expansion draft protect list, the buyout list. The buyout window is open today, and there's some names might be bought out, might be not. I was reading on Pro Hockey Talk. Who did they have? Zach Parise could be bought out. I mean, he's making like a lot of money for a couple more years, and he was even playing in the playoffs. Now that could cost them down the line. James Neal, again, that Lucic for Neal trade. I don't think we saw the team getting Lucic, the team that would win that deal, but I think they're both losers there. Tony DeAngelo, not a surprise, basically got booted off of his team in the season. Who else? Louis Eriksson. Vancouver's got to sign Hughes and Paterson. And the Eriksson, that was I think that was the disaster free agent class. And I think there was one more that I had written down here from Pro Hockey Talk. Shout out to them. Ben Bishop was one that I had never thought of, I guess, because he's always injured, and they had Kudobin.
Yeah.
So that's another one. So yeah, the bio window, the free agent window. Manitoba's Brett Howden signed today with the Rangers. He was an RFA.
Oh, good for Brett. Good for Brett. I mean, that's a nice spot for him. I mean, he's really just got to, grind his way and, become a regular in that Ranger lineup, which he has been, but they seem to be kind of on the upswing. They're going to add players. They're going to be aggressive with Chris Drury now at the helm. But great to see Brett get a contract and hopefully continue his NHL career there in the Big Apple. Edmonton, speaking of buyouts, and we'll maybe get somebody on from Edmonton to talk about this maybe at some point next week. James Neal is the obvious player. The other guy that they've talked about is Mikko Koskinen. And Remis, another guy that did absolutely nothing for Edmonton, that is on the books for another year, that I think they probably will move on from, whether they buy out, bury in the minors, trade, is Kyle Turris. And I'll be honest, I remember when he signed in Edmonton last year, and we were talking about the center position here in Winnipeg, and I thought that maybe that was a real shrewd signing by Ken Holland to get Turris in to play in the bottom six as a guy that could score, that could do a lot of things, and it just never happened for Turris. I mean, he was basically an afterthought for that club. So, I mean, despite the fact that the Oilers have a lot of cap room, they might have more, but it's not a great thing to have multiple contracts that you're considering buying out.
Yeah, it's so funny that you mentioned that, because I was talking about Edmonton yesterday with some guys, and they were saying to me, well, McDavid's making too much money. He's making 12.5. He's really hurting the team. They're not able to put a good team around him. I was like, no. Whatever McDavid is making, he's actually underpaid. It's not his fault that the previous GM made terrible trade after terrible trade and signed terrible contracts like the Koskinen one, or what was it, the Lucic signing, which they had to trade for Neal. I mean, not Tyson Berry. He's a UFA. That was actually a good signing last year, but they had all these, bad trades made, and it's not. I don't think you can put it on McDavid. I think it was the previous GM, which just lost on every single move that he made. So I'm
Chiarelli era. There's nothing better than the parting gift, like the day before he gets fired, the Koskinen contract, which today, 2 years later, they're contemplating buying out. I mean, you can't even write that stuff up. And, for a guy that had success, in Boston and came to Edmonton with so many high hopes, if you have a GM that, makes bold moves that blow up in your face, I mean, it really puts a team, behind the eight ball. And despite having Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid, it hasn't been enough going forward. That being said, I do think this will be a really interesting offseason, in particular for the Edmonton Oilers. And I would imagine that team will be set up in a much better situation to contend going into next year.
They have to have a good offseason, because, I mean, how much longer can McDavid toil away and not advance in the playoffs? He's the best player in the league, Hart Trophy. It's not called Lester B. Pearson anymore. It's like Mark Messier? That's the leadership one. Oh, it's Ted Lindsay Award.
Yeah.
I mean, he's the best player, and they haven't been able to surround him with talent. And at a certain point, he's got to be like, come on, guys. What are we? Trade me to someone who's going to put together a team. So I know they are clearing up a lot of these bad contracts heading into this offseason. So I think the pressure's on Ken Holland here to get them some good players.
Just quickly back to the chat here. We have started a bit of a firestorm with this condiment talk, and especially this mayo versus Miracle Whip discussion. Jeff Cabillas said, Jeff, what up, Jeff? Oh, yeah, big time heat. Mayo versus Miracle Whip. Jason Jett says it's gross. Mike from 18 Over Par says, I grew up a Miracle Whip kid. Brown Eyed Girl, ooh, to Miracle Whip. Mayo Kaziki, too. We may have to have a poll, Remo. This could be.
There is a poll right now.
Oh, excellent.
The 32 votes right now. Mayo 67%. Someone just voted for Miracle Whip at 33. So we can run this poll till Aaron comes on with some UFC preview.
You got it. Some other suggestions. Oh, tacos or sandwiches. And again, we're talking about sandwich etiquette, sandwich toppings here. Tacos certainly in on it. Horseradish mayo from Superstore is the best. Is that just like a horseradish Superstore brand? I'm not familiar. Don't spend a lot of time in the traditional grocery stores. Joe from Winnipeg, I like Frank's Red Hot mixed with mayo. That would be sort of like a buffalo mayo or something like that. Sounds quite good. Mayo, Jetto Tom, wife buys Hellman's mayo, Costco. My mom always bought that. I just found it kind of too thick. I like the tang of the Miracle Whip. And Mitch, leave it to the Godfather to put some sense into this conversation. Mayo and Miracle Whip both have their places. I like both. Don't feel the need to pick one over the other. Finally, a little bit of sense coming to the program.
I want to say this. I actually agree, Hess. There's too much shaming on the internet for people who like stuff. Like who gives a shit if you don't like pineapple on pizza? Like, who cares? It's great. If I like it, like, don't tell me that it's gross. Or if you like dipping fries in mayo, like. People are. What's the deal with shaming everyone about their food choice? You don't need to like go overboard. I guess that's what the internet is all about.
Well, and speaking of shaming, I mean, it was interesting. You sent me that tweet earlier today. TSN had a little clip from Wimbledon where let's just call her a heavier set lady was there at the championships taking in the game and had two large Stellas beers. And she did a great job at finishing the first one, had a little chuckle, and then went starting in on the others. And, I don't know. I mean, I'm like, that looks like a woman that I'm envious of her. She's got two big beers, and she's sitting down watching a great sporting event. What could possibly be wrong with that? And yet, of course, people taking shots looked at her, and then at TSN for posting it, saying that they're beer shaming. We don't beer shame around here. I'll tell you that much. Hey, quickly over to the chat. Hey, Craig Smith's here. What up, Craig? Love the show, guys. Looking forward to Ed Tait. He is the best. Ed, great friend of the program. He's been coming on with me since back in Gary and I started doing this over 10 years ago. And, when it comes to the Canadian Football League and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, there is simply nobody that has done it as well and as long as Ed Tait. So it's going to be a real fun conversation coming up a little bit later on when Ed joins us after we talk to Aaron Bronsteter about the big fight coming up tomorrow with Conor McGregor. Hey, Reem, let's touch on this because we'll ask Ed about this, but I still cannot believe the news from yesterday. And I was out watching the game. I got home and saw this tweet from Farhan Lalji. I'm not sure who broke the story, but again, this was from Jeremy O'Day. Riders general manager Jeremy O'Day confirms the following. Wrap your head around this, folks. Larry Dean, Freddie Bishop, Nelson Lacombo, and Jonathan Femi Cole all suffered Achilles injuries believed to be long-term in a workout within presumably about an hour of each other. The way it was described is that the trainers, I don't even think coaches were there. Like, the training camp hasn't started yet. They were just out going through their workouts, preparing to begin training camp. The first guy goes down with an Achilles injury. He's getting worked on by the trainer, and they just start falling down like dominoes. And I was talking to Dustin Nielsen about this earlier today. I mean, it seems almost impossible that you could have, like, never mind the same injury, four guys getting hurt like that in just a workout at the same time. And man, Reem, you have to wonder what this means for the Riders going forward. I mean, having Larry Dean out, I mean, the combo was a high pick. They were counting on him to be part of it. To have something like that happen before you even begin training camp, devastating for a team like the Riders.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I texted my wife, who's a physiotherapist, and I asked her, I'm like, what's going on here? And she obviously needs to know more about it, but I guess for these players who are going through a period of inactivity, you come back on the field and you're going to get hurt. Maybe it's we saw it in basketball, overuse injuries, baseball. I mean, I think it's a problem in all sports here, but especially football with, the high impact. Again, having not done these maybe physical workouts, you get injured. I think 4 Achilles, that's kind of crazy. Maybe it could have been a knee or something else. But it doesn't say that there were tears. It just says injuries, but definitely long term. So that really sucks for those players. But I think maybe we will be seeing a lot of injuries in the CFL just because these guys haven't had contact in 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you're right, and that's probably a real cautionary tale to CFL teams as they get ready to open up camp when you have something like that. But I mean, 4 Achilles injuries amongst a small group of players in the same workout is the most bizarre thing I have ever heard. And we'll have to find out more about the fallout of this, just how it happened and what this means for the Riders going forward. We'll get to CFL a little bit later on. First, we're going to talk fights. Going into that, want to give a big shout out to the GOAT of all stores. You know it well, Royal Sports, 650 Rally DK, 750 Pembina Highway. Euro final is on Sunday. I talked to Greg last night from Royal. Let's just say business has been brisk for Italy and England merch this week. If you're jumping on the bandwagon or you need to, get a little bit more to fly the flag, if you will, on the weekend, they might still have some stock left, but as we said, it's been going fast. But when it comes to merchandise and anything to do with soccer, Royal Sports has it all for you. And while you're there, check out the incredible bike section, the expanded camping section as well. Obviously, fitness and, hockey, baseball, they have it all. And when it comes to licensed merchandise, whether you're talking about soccer, NHL, NFL, NBA, they've got it all there as well. Pop by Royal Sports this weekend. We'll see if there might be a tent sale coming up soon as restrictions get loosened. But right now, you know it. If it's sports, Royal has it, 750 Pembina Highway. And a big shout out to our friends at the Nick and Nikki DQ group, DQ Niverville, DQ Northgate, St. Anne's, and Polo Park. Did have a conversation with the guys last night on the top blizzard. We won't get that. I don't think the chat can handle that controversial topic right now. We can tell you if you're getting together with some folks on the weekend, would be a great idea to pick up a DQ cake. You can order in advance through the Nick and Nikki group on Instagram at DQ Manitoba. And pop by on the weekend with the fam, grab a blizzard, grab a ultimate grill burger, and much more with our friends from Nick and Nikki DQ. And of course, the Boston Pizza lounges are back open. The patios will be rocking. They've got the new summer menu, including the White Sangria Smash, the Bulldog Margarita Fishbowl, the Galaxy Fishbowl, and the Peachy Mojito Royale, as well as the Vizzy Hard Seltzer. And while you're there, they might sell a few of these on Sunday. The new Burger Italiano. And of course, this is a big Winnipeg thing. Coast to Coast are now in the menu. The Honey Dill Fried Chicken Sandwich. The new summer menu is here at your local Boston Pizza. All right, let's get ready to step into the octagon with the one and only, our great friend TSN's Aaron Bronsteter, who is all over McGregor Poirier, the big event on the weekend. Aaron, thanks so much for doing this, man. It's great to talk to you again. How's things, pal?
Things are good. I thought you were going to throw it to the GOAT of all sports reporters and call me that, but you're talking about the GOAT of all sports stores. So I for a moment I was flattered, and then I was flabbergasted. But and also the Score Blizzard is the #1 in my power rankings. But let's get going. Let's talk UFC.
Well, for sure. Listen, and you certainly are up there. Certainly the GOAT of our friends on the program. It's great to have you back. And I just. Lawless. And first off, well, Gary, of course. Gary's in a special category because he's both a friend, a GOAT, but also a nemesis at times as well. But great times. And man, this is, you've been doing such great content all week long. The buzz about this UFC event is as big as any I can remember in a long time. And I guess that's just sort of par for the course when the main event includes Conor McGregor, regardless of what he's been up to.
Yeah, absolutely. And this one will be the 3rd highest grossing at the box office for the UFC, behind 2 other McGregor events, of course, and apparently is on its way to breaking 2 million pay-per-view buys. So, I mean, this is certainly a big one, and I think that Conor having just lost to Poirier less than 6 months ago, there's a massive appetite to see what happens in this one.
You know what? Just quickly, for folks that maybe don't follow it too closely, this is the 3rd fight in a trilogy. Give us the history between these 2 fighters.
All right. Yeah. So over 6 years ago, they met for the first time. It was in the featherweight division, 145 pounds. And Poirier used to just kill himself to make 145 pounds. He used to cut from like 190 to to 145 pounds, which is just it's an absurd amount of weight to have to cut over the course of fight week. And as a result of that, and of course, I think a result of him being young, letting the external factors get to him, he was just overwhelmed by Conor McGregor the first time around. McGregor was on the rise. Poirier was also on the rise at the time, but he just couldn't deal with everything that came with fighting Conor McGregor at that time. And McGregor scored a first-round knockout on him. 6 years later, Poirier has now beaten the best of the best lightweights in the world, except for Khabib, who's now retired. But he beat Justin Gaethje, beat Eddie Alvarez, beat perhaps the greatest featherweight of all time in Max Holloway. In just these incredible fights where he had to overcome so much adversity. And during that time, we saw what happened with McGregor. He ended up winning 2 titles, but he was also away from the game for some time. And, some credentialed member of the media yesterday pointed out at the press conference that McGregor has only won 1 time since the Obama administration, right? So he hasn't been as active as Poirier has been. In the last fight, Poirier showed that. He showed the experience. He was able to weather the earlier storm from McGregor, use the calf kicks to perfection to slow McGregor down, and then scored a pretty ferocious knockout, the first person to knock out Conor McGregor in mixed martial arts. So a very, very exciting time for Dustin Poirier right now. And I think that he's got a ton of momentum. It doesn't seem like Conor's antics are getting to him this week, and that's why I'm really excited for this one. I think we're just going to get a fantastic fight.
Well, speaking of the antics, and maybe this was the new humble McGregor coming out of some of the nonsense that he'd been perpetrating before, but going into the second fight, he was sort of humble Conor and, looking for a fight. Then he got knocked out. That was not humble Conor yesterday. He's talking about the guy's wife. He's taking to social media. This is the sort of guy. Is this all just selling the fight, or is he trying to take a different way of maybe getting inside Poirier's head because he didn't do it last time and he ended up on his ass?
I think he's legitimately upset with Dustin Poirier. They had a bit of a beef regarding a charitable donation that Conor had said that he would make to the Good Fight Foundation, which Dustin Poirier runs. Instead, McGregor kind of circumvented the foundation and ended up still giving a good amount of money to the Boys and Girls Club of Acadiana, Louisiana, which is where Poirier's from. So the money still went to charity, which is great. But that being said, the big issue now is that they had this kind of public beef about McGregor's team no longer being in contact with them after the fight and possibly shirking on his commitment to make that donation. So now there's some bad blood between the two of them. And, because of that, Conor is now getting back into his old form. He's calling out Poirier, saying it was a fluke, saying that he had rocked Poirier multiple times in that fight. So we're back to the old histrionics and the bravado that made Conor McGregor who he was. But Dustin Poirier was not taking the bait yesterday. In fact, he was throwing out some pretty sharp barbs of his own. And that always seems to be a thing that McGregor's able to do, is get in his opponent's head. I don't think that Poirier's phased whatsoever. In fact, I think Poirier got off light yesterday.
Conor McGregor, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, he's the biggest star in the history of the UFC.
Oh, absolutely. It's not close.
So, considering what he's done, the champ, the money, the highest grossing athlete ever, he was the highest grossing athlete, period, a couple of years ago. What is at stake right now for Conor? Is he fighting for his legacy? Is this a matter of getting back into title matches right now? Or is this just about going into big fights and continue to be a money-making machine for Dana White in the UFC?
Well, I think for him, it's the proof that he's still one of the best fighters in the world. Because to me, Poirier is the best lightweight in the world, not named Khabib Nurmagomedov, who's now retired. And if he can beat Dustin Poirier, and I had predicted in the last fight that Poirier would win inside the distance, and that's what he did, because I knew how good Poirier was at that point in time, and people were writing Poirier off for some reason, even though he had beaten the best of the best guys in the division prior to that. I think that this is all ego for McGregor. He just wants to prove to himself that he's still among the best in the world. In terms of his legacy, I don't think that, and I keep saying this, and I don't think a lot of people agree with me here, but I don't think that his legacy takes a hit one way or the other. I think that if he loses the fight, his legacy is still the first guy to become a 2-division champion simultaneously and the biggest earner in the history of the sport, someone who transcended the sport. And I think that if he wins, that legacy remains the same. I don't think, aside from adding to his resume, I don't think that it does much for his legacy either. I think another championship is needed to help boost that legacy, maybe even a 3rd division title to boost his legacy in terms of his in-cage accomplishments. So I think that win or lose, Conor's still in a good position. He might end up having a trilogy fight with Nate Diaz if he loses. That could be a bigger fight than this one. So I don't think Conor McGregor is going away anytime soon. I don't think it hurts his marketability. Maybe his stock in the fight game, sure, but I don't think that it does too much for him one way or another.
Well, speaking of marketability, and at the end, this business is all about money. Can you put into perspective just how much bigger having McGregor on a card is that, because this is a stacked card. I mean, there's some other top fighters, people that even the casual fans know, but what's the McGregor bump to the UFC, and how much money is involved for an event like this that will be the biggest one of the 2021 calendar for Dana White?
Oh, it's massive. I mean, like I mentioned earlier, this is going to be their third highest grossing event that they've ever done. Going to do over $15 million at the box office, which is just it's a massive number. And then for pay-per-views, if it does 2 million buys, I think that's their second biggest of all time, right? So I mean, this is big business for the UFC. And I think for the UFC, win or lose, they still have a phenomenal commodity with Conor McGregor that can still do big fights. In fact, if he loses and ends up doing a Diaz fight, I think that's bigger than if he wins and ends up fighting for the championship again, honestly, in terms of just numbers, in terms of intrigue. So I think either way, the UFC are kind of covered here.
Yeah, and I mean, the two McGregor-Diaz fights were legendary, and Diaz is such a unique guy. I mean, you're right. That's sort of one of those matches. It doesn't really matter if it's for a title. If you tell any casual MMA fan that it's going to be McGregor and Diaz, they'll be ponying up and they will be paying it. As far as this fight goes, though, for Poirier, you mentioned he is sort of the top dog right now. That's not named Khabib, and Khabib's retired going forward. What does a win over McGregor mean for Poirier going forward when, in the landscape of the UFC?
Yeah, I think it's massive for Poirier's legacy to have righted that wrong and beaten McGregor twice in a row. I think that he will be a favorite against Charles Oliveira if he ends up getting this win against McGregor. And then I think if he ends up winning a championship, you can regard him as the second greatest lightweight of all time. If you look at the resume, 2 wins over McGregor, win over Gaethje, win over Alvarez, win over Pettis, win over Holloway. It's just a fantastic. It might even be better than Khabib's resume, except Khabib has beaten Poirier. So, you have to take that into account. But Poirier, I think he's already one of the all-time great lightweights. But I think that if he gets a win and ends up winning the title, I mean, you have to put him at number 2.
Is Khabib really done? I mean, have we seen the last of Khabib? He was on the top of his game, but there was so much more to it. His background, his culture, the passing of his father, it seemed like that all played into it.
I think so. I don't think we're going to see Khabib compete again. I mean, there's so much money that's on the table right now for him to come back and compete. He just doesn't seem interested. He just doesn't see what the upside would be. He's beaten Poirier. He's beaten McGregor. Yeah, I mean, he may be a Charles Oliveira. If Charles Oliveira reels off 5 more wins in a row or something and becomes... Because really, stylistically, Charles Oliveira is a nightmare matchup for Khabib. It's probably the worst matchup for Khabib out there. But I don't think Khabib feels like he has anything left to prove.
Joe from Winnipeg asking, where can one watch this UFC match? It absolutely is pay-per-view. And unfortunately, because of the restrictions that are still in effect right now in Manitoba and won't change until next week, and we don't even know what the changes will be, bars are closing at 10. Main event will be far beyond that, so you will have to get together at a house or order it yourself to watch it. Aaron Bronsteter is with us. Aaron, before we talk about some of these other fights on the card, you mentioned this will be the third highest grossing UFC event ever. What are the top 2?
The top 2 would be UFC 205 as number 2. That's McGregor versus Alvarez, the first event they ever did at Madison Square Garden. And then Khabib versus Conor is number 1. UFC 229 did over $17 million at the box office.
Like, when Conor retires, are we going to look at the top grossing events of UFC history and see Conor McGregor in like the top 5 or top 6 fights?
Yeah, probably. I don't know what are 4 and 5, but I would have to imagine McGregor was involved in those ones as well. I don't know for sure, but because they have had stadium shows, like they had the 2 stadium shows in Australia, Rousey versus Holm and Adesanya against Whitaker, and they also had the Rogers Center show. But I remember looking at the actual gates for those ones. They weren't even close to these ones. So I think the McGregor fights in Vegas are probably going to be among the best.
Well, we did the lock shop earlier today with Dustin Nielsen. I know you popped on his show this morning, and our pal Chris Abbott from Coolbet is in Vegas right now. And it was kind of funny hearing him, kind of say what it's like there. He's like, COVID does not exist. There's no mask. There's no nothing. And this event right now, I mean, face value tickets, if you can get your hands on them, are in and around $2,000, Aaron, just to give people an idea about the demand for this. And listen, if you want to get it on the secondary market, you might have to mortgage the house or sell your firstborn to get into that building. The hype for this one and the demand for it is already there. And then when you add in the fact that just sort of coming out of the pandemic era with full stands and people being able to do what they want to do, you add that all together, and it's a big fight feel in Las Vegas right now.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't think there are tickets available at face value anymore. I think you have to go to the secondary market. And the last time I looked, the cheapest pair of tickets for sitting, not standing room, but sitting tickets, seated tickets, were, I believe, $1,100 US each per ticket. So, and those are nosebleeds. I mean, so, and then if you look at the floors, I think the lowest price floors seats were in the $7,000 each range US. So it's not a cheap date if you want to go and see this fight live.
If you're with us in the chat, hit the thumbs up, give us a like, and let us know if you got Conor McGregor or Dustin Poirier in the chat. Are you going back with Poirier to get it done again, Aaron? Is that where the smart money is?
I don't know where the smart money is necessarily. I do know that last week's 60, according to my colleague at betonline.ag, which is an offshore betting website, 65% of the money was on Poirier, and now as of today, 55% of the money is on Conor McGregor. So McGregor's getting that late steam like he always does before fights. If you recall, when he boxed against Floyd Mayweather got bet all the way down to minus 275, which is just an absolute gift. I mean, we all should have mortgaged our homes on that one, but taking a second mortgage rather. But yeah, I think more money's going to start coming in on McGregor. So if you like Poirier, wait until tomorrow afternoon or when the event starts, because I think that number is going to get closer to even money. I do like Poirier here. I think that this fight's going to be a little bit different. I think it's going to be a slower paced fight to open up, similar to when McGregor fought Diaz. He was very, very careful with each shot that he took. It was kind of a shot for shot type fight. I think we're going to see this fight enter the third round, and then I think we're going to see Poirier run away with it at some point in the third or fourth. I think that the volume is going to be too much for McGregor. I think his power shots are going to lose a little bit of their steam, and that's when we're going to see Poirier get it done in the third or fourth.
Aaron Bronsteter with us here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. You mentioned that Mayweather-McGregor fight. I heard you on with our friend Pat Mayo earlier this week. Did you seriously call your wife and say, listen, this number is so good, maybe we should, as a family, go into a large investment on one pretty boy Floyd Mayweather? How did that conversation go?
Yep, that was a real conversation. And my wife basically said, like, well, if you really think so, sure. She always does that. She puts the ball in my court, and then I have to think, I've got to go to the bank. I got to figure out how to get money while I'm in the States. And then if I lose, I mean, then what? Am I sleeping on the couch for a month? And then you're putting more risk than just financial on the line for that situation. Although that to me was as close to a lock as you could possibly get. And at that kind of, if you can get a lock at minus 275 or minus 300, let's throw away the keys, baby. Let's let that lock ride.
Speaking of betting, right now we've got Poirier at minus 127, minus 125, McGregor in at about plus 117. You mentioned early betting was on Poirier, but McGregor is someone that just the average casual fan wants to bet on and watch and cheer for because he's Conor McGregor. If you want to bet Poirier, should we wait? I mean, is that something you think, waiting until Saturday closer to the fight is probably the time when you get the best number?
Well, the lines will always tighten on fight day, regardless of who you like, unless somebody gets major steam. But yeah, I think we're going to see this fight close to even money when the event starts. And the closer it gets to fight time, I think usually as it gets closer, they'll move the line one way. But again, in the early hours of the fight card, I think is probably the best time if you like Poirier. I think it'll get close to even money at that point in time, probably around minus 115 for Poirier, minus 105 for McGregor, something along those lines.
Aaron, let's talk about some of the other fights, because overall this card is pretty stacked, isn't it, as far as UFC events go?
It's okay. I mean, any fight card with Conor McGregor is usually, lately when they've been booking McGregor, is usually a one fight card, like that's by far the biggest fight on the card. But I love the UFC's fights in general. Like the level of competition is so high, but I wouldn't call it a stacked card outside of the main event. It's a good card.
Sugar Sean O'Malley's in there. Is this a new opponent for him? Is they just putting in a jobber, as it were? He is. I can't remember the last time I saw a guy that was minus 1250.
Yeah, on the men's side, you rarely see a minus 1250 in the UFC. And, this is basically a short notice opponent. O'Malley's opponent, Louis Smolka, recently suffered an injury and had to get withdrawn from the fight. So now suddenly you've got this new guy, Chris Matinho, being called into action here. And if you want value on this fight, if you're looking for a spot on this particular fight, O'Malley by submission is plus 1200. And O'Malley's a phenomenal grappler who rarely uses his grappling. And this is the kind of fight where you can kind of show off your chops and show a complete, well-rounded game and kind of have your way with a less qualified opponent. So I love that number if you want like some major, if you want to throw a dart at the board, like I say, I would recommend a little sprinkle on that one at plus 1200.
All right, let me ask you about two other fights before we finish up. You got the Wonder Boys, Stephen Thompson and Gilbert Burns. The one thing's interesting is a lot of these fights, I mean, the lines are relatively close. I mean, Wonder Boys minus 152, Burns plus 129. Just give us a quick synopsis of this fight.
Yeah, this is a great fight because Stephen Thompson's never fought the champion Kamaru Usman, and is an interesting matchup for Usman stylistically, although he is 38 years old and he has fought twice for the title previously. And now Burns just fought Usman. He's coming off a loss to his former training partner. Now these guys are going to go toe-to-toe. And I think for Stephen Thompson, this is kind of a must-win because at 38 years old, I don't know if he's going to get another title shot if he doesn't win this fight. And for Burns, I just have seen so much improvement in his game. When he moved up from 155 to 170, his power really moved over to 170. His striking's gotten a lot better, and he's one of the best grapplers in the UFC to boast. So I like Burns here as an underdog. I think you're getting good value on him. I would actually favor him in this fight. That's why if you get him as an underdog, I think you're getting good value.
Well, plus 129 right now on Coolbet. Now, the other fight that I'm interested in, probably for all the wrong reasons, is Greg Hardy and Tait Tuivasa. We all know Greg Hardy is one of the biggest reprobates in all of sports. And he is sort of owned it, I guess, now that he kind of realizes that it's probably good for, his marketability in a weird way in the UFC as sort of a bad guy. He's plus 117, Tuivasa minus 137. These are big dudes. What do you make of this matchup right now? And will karma come to rest with Greg Hardy being flat on his ass on Saturday night?
Well, Tait Tuivasa is a heavy hitter, but there's going to be a pretty big size discrepancy in height for this one. I think that you're going to see Greg Hardy get a lot of range here. I think that Hardy by decision is the best way to look at this one at plus 375. Hardy's become a lot more of a tactical fighter. Early on in his career, his physicality was too much for a lot of these guys on the regional level, and he was able to knock them out. But that power hasn't been his greatest weapon in the UFC. It's actually been his tactics. He's been very good at conserving his energy, using a tactical approach, starting to utilize takedowns and grappling. And I think that in this fight, Hardy can outpoint Tuivasa here. But, if you can find odds on Tuivasa to win and scorecards equals no action, that's probably the way I would play Tuivasa. I don't think Tuivasa is going to win a decision over Greg Hardy, but I do think that there is knockout potential for him.
Just looking at some highlights of Tuivasa's former fights, he certainly can kick. How important will that be against a guy that, has only been in this game for a couple years?
Yeah, it's always important to have the kind of power that Tuivasa has. It's one of those things where you can't really put a level on it until you actually get hit with that power. And I think that he will hit Hardy early. That's going to be his best chance to put Hardy away is early on in this fight because his power doesn't continue throughout the fight. He seems to lose a little bit of that luster and a little bit of that power as the fight goes on. So I think that that's going to be his best path to victory is an early finish. And if not, I like Hardy by decision. I think at plus 375, you're getting good value on him there.
Before we go, is there a fight that we didn't mention that you've got a strong lean on one way or the other?
In terms of a strong lean, I like the over in the Dricus Duplessis versus Trevin Giles fight. I think it's around even money. I think that fight goes to a decision. So that was one of my TSN edge picks. So I would go with that one if you're looking for value. And if you're looking for something that's just going to be fun to watch on TSN, we're going to have Nico Price against Michel Pereira. These guys are just two complete wild men. And if you want to watch a fun and entertaining fight, Pereira does backflips during fights and lands on people and does all kinds of wacky stuff. So if you want to watch a really interesting fight, go make sure you're on TSN for the prelim card and wait for Pereira versus Nico Price because that's a guaranteed entertainment fight.
Do you have a pick in that one? I see Price is an underdog plus 136, Pereira minus 159.
Too much volatility. I'm going to stay away.
Right on. Aaron, you've been all over this all week long. I know the weigh-ins. What do you have? Imagine popping in on Sports Center and what's on TSN tomorrow before they get going with the pay-per-view.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm going to be doing pre on Sports Center because I think we have an essay of some sort that we're airing. But I'll be on post as soon as the event ends. Go over to Sports Center. You'll see myself and Robin Black breaking down everything that happens. I do a pre-show on Twitter Live about 30 minutes before the event starts. If you want to hear about it from a betting perspective, I talk with Dan Tom from MMA Junkie, who's one of the best analysts in the game in terms of X's and O's and utilizing that information from a betting perspective. So you can check that out on Twitter Live about 30 minutes before the early prelim starts. So I think that's around 5:30 tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken.
If you're not following already, you should be. It's at Aaron Bronsteter. Check out his great work at TSN. Hey, Bron, thanks for doing this, man. Great to catch up. Enjoy the fights, and let's do this again soon.
Yes, sir. I mean, it's going to be a calm summer, so if you need any UFC talk, there's an event every week. I'm here for you.
Right on. We'll do it again soon. Thanks, pal. Great to have Aaron back on the program. A great friend of ours. Used to spend a lot of time with Aaron on Super Bowl Radio Row back when we were doing that. He was there with the Landsberg and the Toronto guys, and got a chance to meet him there. It's just been great to see how he has continued to grow as a journalist and really the go-to guy when it comes to MMA news for TSN, along with the former Winnipegger Robin Black. All right, we're going to get to some CFL talk in just a second. Before we do that, I do want to thank Not Autocorp for their great support of Winnipeg Sports Talk from day one. Why not get into the vehicle of your dreams at a great price with the help of the Not team? Pop down and see them at Waverly and McGillivray, or find out more on what's in stock over online at not.ca. All makes and models, best selection of Teslas in the city for years. Award-winning service department, car detailing, and so much more. Whatever you need, pop over to Not. And if you're thinking about getting a new ride, but you're in a lease or you've got a car that you need to sell to move on, talk to them about their consignment program. Incredibly successful, helping their customers get max value for their cars. Of course, the weekend is here. The weather's going to be nice. May I suggest stepping it up a notch with the new summer lager from Little Brown Jug. It's there in the summer variety pack. You'll also be able to try the amazing new Hefeweizen, in addition to the standard when it comes to local beers here in Winnipeg. That, of course, being the Little Brown Jug 1919. You can get it delivered right to your home as part of their great home delivery, same day in Winnipeg. That's all there at littlebrownjug.ca. Check out their merch as well. And of course, now that the restrictions have been relaxed, the tap room is open. Pop by. They've got an incredible facility down on William Avenue. You can see where all the beer's made. You can pick up whatever you want and enjoy some cold Little Brown Jugs and a couple slices of pizza out in the tap room on their beautiful patio out on William. So it's open right now. It'd be a great spot to add in to your weekly itinerary. And a big shout out to Braxton Coots over at Breezy Bend. We mentioned yesterday that he won the junior yesterday. I know everyone over at Breezy really proud. Corey Johnson, the GM, mentioned that they are so excited for his big win. And the Manitoba Mid-Amateur is starting today. 10 Breezy members in the field, including defending champion Alan McDonald, my pal, the People's Champ, Justin McDonald, and Eric Johnson, who won it in 2019. And a lot of people talking about Ryan Scholdes, another Breezy member. So Breezy guys will be getting after it at the Mid-Am. Good luck to everyone playing out there. And if you're thinking about a great spot for you and your family to golf together next year, a wonderful junior program, as you can see with the junior champ yesterday, great ladies program, men's night, they've got it all, and the best patio at a golf course in the city as well. All over at Breezy Bend. Check them out at breezybend.ca. All right. Training camp begins tomorrow. The CFL is finally back. I got to the stadium on Wednesday checking in the soccer game, and all I could think about was August 5th, Bombers Ticats, getting back to IG Field and to get ready for Bomber training camp. There's no one better to talk about it with than the great Ed Tait, who joins us now from BlueBombers.com. Eddie, what's up? Great to have you on Winnipeg Sports Talk. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. I say those aerial shots of Breezy Bend were pretty cool in that little video. Well done. I had played there many times. That looked cool though.
Yeah, no, it's nice. I give a lot of credit to the CTO, my partner Michael Remis. We've been able to kind of, try to do everything we can for our sponsors, show it off. And if we're on YouTube, we've got video anyways. May as well show some of it. But course is looking great right now. They've done some great work on it. And that being said, the time for golf is probably over for you because it's time to get back to work, huh? How excited is everyone around Blue Bomber HQ that things are happening and we got a team back and they'll be on the field tomorrow?
Yeah, I've been using the analogy. It's like Christmas Eve for a lot of us. I'm pretty giddy about the opening of camp. I know it's a little strange because it's been so dark for so long, right? There'd be times where I'd pop into the office occasionally and there'd be nobody down in the football operations department. So it's just good to see people back again and in the building. And there's going to be a lot of people that are pretty jacked up just to get back at practice again and to see each other. So it's like I keep saying, it's Christmas Eve for a lot of us.
Well, it's been a long. Just before we get into this, well, what's this? You're an experienced journalist. You've worked in a number of different roles. You've been with the Bombers for a few years. I mean, what's it been like for you? I mean, the last time this team played a football game, they ended a 29-year drought, raised the Grey Cup. We had the greatest celebration maybe ever in this city, and then everything stopped. Probably still bizarre, even just thinking everyone's been through, but specifically working in the CFL over the course of an unprecedented timeout.
Yeah, it's been like night and day. I can still remember the Grey Cup parade being down at the Forks, and one of the images that pops into my head is Jake Thomas doing the body surf dive into the crowd there when they were doing this celebration. Of course, Chris Strubber doing his thing, Jamarcus Hardrick on the drums that he stole from the band behind him. So you go from that absolute high, right, to there's momentum being built in the off season, January, February, the merchandise is flying off the shelves, tickets are going well, and then boom, it just comes to a stop. And so you start to worry, and then as the summer came along, we thought there was going to be a bubble season, the plug gets pulled on that, and then you really start to worry. And so for a guy like me that loves this league so much, started to worry about the future of the league. And, you start worrying about your own job. And I know a lot of people have gone through similar situations and lost jobs. It's been hard on a lot of people. So to go through all that in just over, whatever it is, how many months it is, it's been hard. And I think that's all kind of bled into what we're expecting tomorrow, the excitement and the return. It's going to look a little bit different tomorrow, Huss, when training camp opens. But it's just exciting to be back again.
Well, amen to that. And as I mentioned before we brought you on, got my card on Tuesday, so I did not want to miss an opportunity to get back to the stadium. Went out and took in the Valor game on Wednesday, and it was a glorious night. I mean, unfortunate that they got absolutely hosed on that BS call late in the second half that would have tied the game. What a goal that was! But honestly, the score almost was secondary. It was about getting back. It was seeing fans, and I'll be honest, half the time I was just looking around going, August 5th, this is going to be awesome. Hey, before we talk about Bombers training camp and what we'll be looking for when things get going tomorrow, the big news this week, and I'm interested in your thoughts on it, was the announcement from the CFL that all of these talks, the formal discussions with the XFL were done, at least at this time. What did you make of the statement and your thoughts on all of that? And what does this mean for the league going into kickoff on the 5th of August?
Well, when the statement initially came out, I was a bit surprised because I didn't think they would cut off things the way they did. I just thought maybe they would shelve it, and maybe ultimately that's what they're going to do. As a diehard of the league, I didn't want to see anything given away. I didn't want to see, the change to 4 downs or the U.S.-sized field. There's all these things that make the game unique. And you can be fans of both leagues. I don't understand why people think it's a choice that you have to pick one or the other. I love all football, man. I love watching the Charleswood Broncos when my kids played for them here. I love watching high school football. I don't know why you can't like it all. But I'm, in a way, as a traditionalist, I'm glad that this step has been taken because it means we can just focus on what's immediately ahead of us. And I think that's the 2021 season. And I know it's not, they're saying it's not related, but I think part of what has happened with the single game betting act being passed is part of this too, because I think it's going to give some Canadian Football League teams and other sports teams too, a bit of a financial windfall that maybe takes this league from being, kind of a hand-to-mouth operation financially to something that's got a little bit more stability. So, again, initially surprised that they pushed away from the table because you always have to, explore all options. But for a traditionalist like me, I'm glad that we're just going to focus on what's right ahead here. We need this right now. So let's get back to that and worry about that.
Yeah, no, I agree wholeheartedly. And, it was concerning to hear that because, from my perspective, not being on the inside, not having information, when I heard that, the fact that they were going down that road, it to me, it painted such a dire picture of where the league was And I really do think there's some opportunities for this league to bounce back better than it was before. And I realize they're different markets. I have a lot of confidence that that'll be the case here in Winnipeg. You'll hope that will be elsewhere in the league as well. Sometimes absence makes the heart grow fonder. And I think, just the fact that, people haven't been able to do anything for 18 months, hopefully there'll be some people go, yeah, maybe I will go check out an Argos game or an Alouettes game and hopefully become regulars. One other thing before we get to the Bombers. My head is still spinning from this report yesterday out of Regina. 4 players going down with Achilles injuries in the same workout. I mean, Ed, that's the most bizarre thing I've ever heard. It's tragic for the players involved. It's devastating for the riders. But I imagine that the unique situation these teams are in going into training camp, that must have sent shivers down the spine of every football ops person in the league, considering, they're all starting tomorrow. And if that bizarre situation could happen in Saskatchewan to 4 players, I imagine everyone might be on pins and needles for the first few workouts, hoping to just get guys through healthy and in one piece.
Yeah, you used the word bizarre. It really was bizarre what happened in Regina yesterday with 4 guys going down with an Achilles injury. Like, I've been covering the Bombers since 1990, Huss, and I can think of maybe 4 or 5 guys in all that time that suffered Achilles injuries, let alone not just the same season, the same day. It's bizarre. I think that it probably sent shockwaves across the league and reminded everybody to do the proper warm up and make sure you're ready to go. An Achilles injury is just so happenstance, right? It's just it's one of those things where the tendon can snap. It just can come from stretching. It can come from running. It's not anything necessarily related to contact. But I think this is a concern for teams when you've got this many players that are coming back that haven't played for so long. Maybe some of them have been taking care of their bodies, but let's not kid ourselves. Not everybody's going to be 100% in physical condition when this camp starts. I know the Bombers had initially planned on taking the first few days to be fitness and conditioning anyway, testing, that sort of thing. But I'd be interested to see if what happened in Regina yesterday impacts what the Bombers will try to do on the weekend here.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we all love everything about the Bomber-Rider rivalry and getting after it on Labor Day and at the Banjo Bowl here in the Peg. But I was just thinking about these athletes. I mean, you go through missing a season and you're training to come back. It's been 2 years since you were on the field, and the final workout before, and it just happened to one would be terrible. But I mean, it almost doesn't seem possible. It doesn't seem real. And I'm sure Rod and the guys in Regina have had a tough day today talking about that, and you wonder where you go from there. But unfortunately, this won't be the only time we're talking about some unfortunate injuries before we kind of get to the starting line for this 14-game season. Ed Tait's with us from BlueBombers.com. You can follow him on Twitter at EdTaitWFC. Eddie, let's talk about the blue and gold. It's been a long time since we've seen them hoist that Grey Cup, but certainly I think the goal for Kyle Walters was to try to bring back as much of that championship team as possible. To be a little older, but I've talked to Adam Bighill and Andrew Harris, both of them saying they've never felt better. They've been a long time since they've been hit. What do you make of the Bombers overall, and how similar will this team look to fans when they get after it against Hamilton as opposed to what we saw in Calgary in November of 2019?
Yeah, well, I think everybody's seen the numbers that all of the offense except Cody Speller is back. And Michael Couture is the regular center. He got hurt in the last regular season game and was replaced by Speller. So you could make the case that all 12 starters on offense are back. On defense, no Winston Rose. He's in Cincinnati. Marcus Sales is in BC. Drake Nevis is in Toronto. Craig Rowe in Toronto. But primarily all those guys are back too. One of the big holes, of course, is no Justin Medlock. So Mark Leggio, the rookie kicker, is the only kicker coming to camp right now. So that shows you how much faith they have in him. But Mike O'Shea has said that with the condensed season and with no preseason games, he thinks that a lot of teams are going to lean on their veterans because you don't have time to kind of work somebody into the job and let them grow on the job. You got to be ready from the get-go. And so I expect that when August 5th rolls around, this will still be a very, very veteran-dominated team, as much as they brought in some really interesting pieces here to challenge all these guys. I'm just not sure if you can make a case to overtake a veteran without preseason games at all to shine. So going to be interesting because there's so many returning pieces. But I'll tell you what, Danny McManus and Ted Gavaya and the scouting staff and Kyle Walters have done a real good job of bringing people to push him too.
You know, you speak about everybody coming back. There's a couple big changes, though, on the offensive side of the football. Number one, Lapo's the head coach of the Ottawa Redblacks, and Buck Pierce is the offensive coordinator. And I think there'll be a pretty good level of continuity because of how closely those two work together and probably how much of Paul's knowledge was passed on to Buck. But I'm interested in the absence of Chris Streveler because, you know, if you compare that championship team of 2019 to other CFL teams, the Bombers were sort of a unicorn. Mm-hmm. I mean, they relied on their defense. They relied on the running game far more than any team usually does in the Canadian Football League. And Streveler was such a big part of it. How different do you think, even with most of the personnel back, how different will the Bomber offense look as opposed to the way they won it in 2019, Ed?
Yeah, it's a real good point, Huss, because what Chris Streveler gave them was really unique, right? Because he was a quarterback that would come in and he was like a fullback, and the way he ran over people, I think of that Banjo Bowl game. I could watch that clip over and over again where he goes through about 7 guys. So there was a uniqueness to what he brought to the offense that, you know, when he was in the game and Andrew Harris was still there, you weren't sure who was going to run the ball or if Streveler was going to throw it. So that element is gone. But let's face it, there aren't many players like Chris Streveler in pro football. I mean, that's partly why he's with Arizona now. So when Sean McGuire comes into the game, the number 2 quarterback now, they're not going to ask him to, you know, tuck the ball away and pound it the way Chris Streveler did. Now, he can do that kind of stuff on short yardage, but I just don't think it's going to be an aspect of the offense that's featured regularly. They'll still pound the ball with Andrew Harris behind the best offensive line. So I think what might look different without Chris Streveler and with Buck Pierce in charge is that you're going to see more pieces rotate in the receiving core. You might see, you know, a Charles Nelson, a Janarian Grant, or kind of a smaller receiver with speed get in there to do the things that maybe Lucky Whitehead did a little bit before his play dropped off. And you know, look, they had 3 different starting quarterbacks in 2019, and that was part of the reason why they finished last in passing. And so I think that's a number that they want to really improve. Because you still want to pound the ball and be old school, but I do think that they'd like to light it up a little bit more offensively through the air too.
Well, I think that goes without saying, and you know it is still bizarre, Ed. Zach Collaros has played 1 regular season game for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. It was a very memorable one, and it ended up in incredible fashion, maybe as a harbinger of things to come. But it's still been 1 game, and I would suggest certainly without Streveler, with Collaros in, the way the Bombers move the football becomes less dependent on that running game. And maybe that's a good thing for Andrew Harris at his age, preserving him a little bit more. When you look at this offense, does it still start and go through Andrew Harris, or might we see a more pass-first offense under Zach Collaros when we get going?
I think it still runs through Andrew Harris, and a lot of that has to do with the guys up front. That offensive line is going to be exactly the same. With Jamarcus Hardrick, Stanley Bryan at the tackles, Couture at center, as we mentioned, and Drew Desjardins and Pat Neufeld at guard. I think they'll just keep pounding it and pounding it and pounding it. But it's going to be interesting. Buck Pierce is a quarterback. He was involved in the game planning all along here, but he played the position. You know, he knows how to attack defenses, and of course, he wants to attack through the air too. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what kind of tweaks he does. You know, they're going to move people around. You know, we get locked into thinking of a guy as a slot back or a wide receiver. I think those guys are going to bounce all over the field. And Buck's had a long time here to put his playbook make tweaks to the playbook. So, and Zach Collaros will be a lot more involved. That's going to be one of the interesting storylines, I think, as the season goes, is that you touched on him getting the 1 start and then winning the 3 playoff games. So he's got a whole camp now and a chance to know Buck's offense and know the players and not be parachuted in at the trade deadline, which made what he did in 2019 even more remarkable. I think there's a lot of optimism in the Bombers' offensive meeting rooms that Caleros, if he can stay healthy, could do some real damage with the pieces around him.
Well, that's certainly what the hope is. Ed, you kind of laid it out. Most of the returning players will be back. I mean, the offense will look very similar with the exception of Chris Streveler. Quarterback, receiving core, running backs, who are, tell us about maybe a newcomer or two that you'll be paying attention to during training camp that might not be familiar to Bomber fans.
Well, you had Cam Meredith on the other day, and I mean, anybody that's watched the NFL can remember him. I think you guys said you had him in your fantasy pool. He put up some pretty good numbers that one year with the Bears, so that's a guy to keep an eye on. There's a handful of receivers that could push. I know that they like Carlton Agadosi. I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. I'll find out tomorrow if I got it wrong. One of their draft picks from last year, Brennan O'Leary Orange. They start two Canadians in Nick Dembski and Drew Wolotarski. So you better have people that are ready to come in case those guys get hurt. There's 27 defensive backs coming to camp. So we talked about the two jobs available, starting jobs in the secondary. Part of this is you always got to have bodies in training camp, but 27, that's an awful lot of guys coming in for a secondary that was made over. Remember, at the end of 2019, that they were moving pieces all over the place before they found the right mix. So that's going to be an interesting group to keep an eye on. A couple of guys that were in the XFL too. So Deatrick Nichols was leading the XFL in interceptions when the season got canceled. He's a guy that will push for work. There's a bunch of them. The defensive line's not going to change much, but I'm interested to see what Jonathan Kongbo looks like. He was already carved out of stone. He said he's putting on like 16 pounds of muscle. And, he's one of those guys that's heading into his second year. And they talk an awful lot about that in the CFL. The guys that maybe start or get starting time in year one, it takes them a year to figure out all the little intricacies of the game, whether you're a receiver, it's the waggle, a defensive back, how to defend the waggle, and even a D lineman or an O lineman, how to get used to that, having the yard off the ball. So some of those guys that are going into their second year, there'll be a lot expected of them too.
One area we haven't touched on, and it often gets overlooked, but it certainly shouldn't, and it's not by the coaches, is special teams. Mm-hmm. And Justin Medlock has been Mr. Automatic for the Blue Bombers since he was acquired. And the reason why he was acquired and the Bombers spent that capital, which is far more than you normally pay for a kicker, is because of how problematic it was in the past. This is needless to say, excuse the pun, but very big shoes to fill for the kicker. And then you add in a new long snapper as well. How much of a focus will the third aspect of the game, special teams, be for Mike O'Shea when things get going?
Well, anytime one of the greatest kickers of all time steps away, then the person that steps in is going to have, huge cleats to fill, as they say. I think back to the playoffs. I mean, we all knew that Justin Medlock was good before he got to Winnipeg, and he did his thing regularly. But think of the playoffs again and how good he was in the cold. And we're talking about a guy from California who lives in Florida, and he was 6 of 7 in the Grey Cup. He kicked some amazing field goals, clutch field goals in that win over Calgary in the playoffs. Same thing in the West Final. So, and a very, very underrated punter who worked on that part of his craft right to the end. So, look, Mark Leggio, a Bomber draft pick from last year, Western kid. If you go to his Instagram page, you'll see him crushing field goals that are like, it'll make your jaw drop. But it's different when the lights are on, as they say. And, Mike Benson's a proven long snapper, a Winnipeg guy. I don't think they're too worried about that. But Mark Leggio, as great as his credentials are, we're not really going to know how he handles replacing Justin Medlock until August 5th without any preseason games. Got a great leg, and the fact that there's only him in camp and there's no other kickers to challenge him really says to me that this team has a lot of faith in him, even though he's unproven.
And will he, I imagine he'll be doing the punting duties as well? Yep,
absolutely. Apparently he's pretty good. Look, I can't say that I watched a lot of Western games. I'm not going to BS people and say I followed the Mustangs closely, but I've seen his numbers were really good in college. I'm not sure yet if he's mastered, the pinning the team inside the 10 or punting away, the directional kicks and stuff that Justin Medlock did so well. But Mark Leggio's had a long time to prepare for that too. So I imagine he's been at a park somewhere in Southern Ontario for the last year and a bit since he's been drafted, doing everything that the special teams coaches had been asking.
Ed Tait from BlueBombers.com with us, getting ready for Blue Bomber training camp tomorrow. You know, it's interesting that you mentioned that there is no competition for that job right now. And, you know, for a rookie, some might say that's a bit surprising. But I think, as we know, I mean, if you need to fill a position or go somewhere, there will be people. But for this young man to come into camp, filling in, you know, for Medlock, to have the confidence of the organization and the coaching staff right off the bat, I think puts him probably in a more comfortable situation going forward. But again, we all know when the bullets start flying for real, it's a production business, and there will be a lot of pressure on a young kicker, you know, to continue to deliver, maybe not exactly what Medlock did, but be reliable, because as long as the Bombers play that sort of, you know, defense first style, you are going to, you know, need to stack up those points when you're not pushing it in for 6.
Well, you mentioned it. Remember back in 2016 when the Bombers signed Justin Medlock in free agencies, people were saying, are they crazy to spend that much money on a kicker? But they won an awful lot of tight games over the years because of what Medlock did. You know, the minute you got over center, over the 55-yard line, you were basically in scoring range because he was that consistent. You know, so if you were on the other team's 45, it was almost automatic if the wind was normal that he was going to get out there and try to win the game. So it's going to be interesting to see how the kid handles it. Ideally, last year, Medlock would have come back for one more year, and Mark Leggio could have learned under him as sort of some kind of kicking savant, you know, that passed on all the wisdom that he has. So that opportunity is lost for both Mark Leggio and Justin Medlock to go out in style. But Justin Medlock's last game in the CFL, as we said, was a 6-for-7 game and a Grey Cup win. So I think he'll live with that. But it's also interesting that not bringing in another guy is maybe a vote of confidence too, right? Don't look over your shoulder. Don't worry about it. Just get out there and kick the ball. We know you can do it. If you bring in another guy and you go 2 for 4 at a practice and the other guy's 4 for 4, maybe that gets into your head. So there's probably some of that at play too.
Westwood will remind everyone he never retired as well. So we do have another kicker out in the Winnipeg community that is only a phone call away. And he would pick up that call and he would show up half an hour later getting ready to kick, I think, as well. Eddie, going into that, let me ask you this, and I think this will be interesting for folks. And there's been quite a bit of talk about what the players are going through right now with the 1-week quarantine and then getting into it. How are things going to work for the players? And is it different for vaccinated players to non-vaccinated players? I mean, how different is this camp going to be from a logistics standpoint when it comes to the protocols and what the players and the team needs to do to operate safely?
Well, I'll probably be able to give you a better sense of that after the weekend. But, you know, the players have been in quarantine. And, you know, I'm just looking at the NFL policy, the rules for fully vaccinated players versus non-fully vaccinated players is quite different in terms of their freedoms away from the football field. But as the players have said, the coaches have said that when the Bombers get on the field on Saturday and Sunday in particular, and then leading into more practices next week, it's going to look a lot different, right? Because you've got different health and safety protocols you got to follow during a practice. So, you know, honestly, Huss, I don't know what that's going to look like until we get a look at it tomorrow. All I'm being told is that it's going to look different. It's going to be a lot different. You saw Brendan Labatt retire from the Riders, not retire, but step away for a year. And one of his criticisms was the things that the players aren't going to be allowed to do when they go on the road, that you're basically going to have to hang out in your room. You can't go out to dinner with your teammates. Now, you know, I think a lot of this is going to change between now and August 5th, between now and Labor Day. And let's hope that the numbers keep coming down and that the restrictions loosen. And then that will apply to the team too. But it's going to look a lot different when we get on the field tomorrow.
Ed, you obviously follow what's going on in the rest of the league. It looks like Hamilton and Winnipeg have the most sort of continuity, and that would make sense because they were the two best teams last year. What intrigues you about some of the other spots in the CFL? What are you going to be paying attention to or sort of looking forward to hear as we get through training camp before kickoff?
Well, let me just kind of rattle off a few things here. So, you know, BC's got a coaching change. Can Michael Riley bounce back? So much was expected of him. In Edmonton, new coach too, and Jamie Elizondo and Trevor Harris got hurt. They got a lot of weapons there. Calgary lost a lot of pieces, but you never vote them down. I was very impressed with Cody Fajardo last year. As an outsider, I know a lot of people in Regina have faith in him. I wonder if he's a mirage. Some people might, he was a guy that had bounced around the league before he became a star in Saskatchewan. So is he the real deal? That's something that I would like to see from them. You're right about Hamilton. Montreal is really intriguing. I love what Kahari Jones has done there to build a culture, and Vernon Adams is so exciting. And Toronto, man, they went out and signed everybody, didn't they? They have a veteran team, new coach, and Nick Arbuckle, sort of the same situation as Cody Fajardo. Is he for real? And then Ottawa, I kind of feel for Lapo because, look, they brought in Matt Nichols. They've done some neat things, but they've been hammered with their Canadian talent in the last little bit, with some of their offensive linemen retiring, and then Brad Sinopoli retiring as well. So those are huge holes to fill, and that's a big challenge for Lapo before they even get on the field. So, that's kind of my quick look across the league. I hope I didn't forget anybody. It's so small, I better not have forgotten anybody.
And so what's the schedule for the team? How are things going to work? You mentioned it's sort of going to be fitness, conditioning, testing. I imagine considering what happened in Saskatchewan yesterday, everyone will be uber careful as things get going. What can you tell us about kind of the plan for the first week for the coach, how often the players will be out there, and what's going on?
Well, so far, all we have, Huss, is the schedule for Saturday and Sunday, and it's just there's a time slot as if a regular practice. I will say to people that unfortunately it's closed to the public because that's the same way across the league, and they're just being careful with stuff. And so, I think it is going to be a lot of fitness and just that was planned even before what happened in Saskatchewan happened, and I think they'll get out there and just get a gauge to see who can still run, who can touch their toes, and then cross your fingers that nobody blows an Achilles out or a knee or anything. And then I think that with no preseason games, what we're going to see in camp is maybe some more one-on-ones, more situational football where you try to simulate games, situations in the course of a practice. It's not like they didn't do that before, but maybe you try to ramp that up a little bit more on a more regular basis to really evaluate these guys, because guys can run drills, guys can pop in lines and try to cover a receiver or vice versa. But until you see them in game action with 11 other guys around you, it's a lot different than 4 receivers out running a pass pattern and 4 DBs covering them and no line play. So they might have to simulate game situations a bit more.
Eddie, this might be not your department, but I'll ask you just because Andrew Haleko's asking, with fans not being allowed to go in, many fans used to kind of make a habit of it, popping in there to see the team. Is there any plans, of a live streaming of the practices or anything like that for people that do want to watch?
Well, it's a good question. So there's a couple things at play here. Number one, with the CPL kickoff season going on at IG Field, the field is already set up for soccer. There's no lines on there for football, so all the practices will be at the soccer complex. And in terms of the live streaming, look, I brought this up before, and I got shot down in a hurry. And it's just what every coach does. No coach wants to show any of their practice. That's why when the TV crews show up, the window of opportunity for them to film is basically when the team is stretching, because they don't want to see. It's happened before. I've had coaches come to me and say even a photo that we took when I worked at the paper caught something in the background that they didn't want to be seen. So there's no chance, unfortunately, of a live streaming of a practice, because you can bet that 8 other CFL teams would be watching, and that's just how the game works. You know that, Huss. Yeah,
no, there's no doubt about it. Eddie, just before we go, I realized we talked a lot about Zach Collaros and Sean McGuire. With Strevler out, McGuire was there. What can you tell us about the battle for the third quarterback spot?
Yeah, kind of an interesting one. Again, these guys are kind of going to suffer a little bit with not having preseason action to shine, but Dalton Sneed put up huge numbers at the University of Montana, really an intriguing prospect. And then Drew Brown is a guy that played at both Hawaii and Oklahoma State, and they're kind of similar. I've talked to Buck Pierce about these two guys. They're similar in that they've got that ad-lib creativity about them that you want in a CFL quarterback, that when the pocket breaks down, they can extend plays by rolling out or tuck it away and run. Now, I'm intrigued to see both these guys. I've gone to the YouTube and looked at their highlights, and it looks pretty impressive. But they're kind of the same player in a way, or they have similar skill sets. So it'll be interesting to see who kind of locks down that third job behind Collaros and Sean McGuire.
Well, I listen. It's always neat to see some of those new QBs, but in some ways, Zach Collaros is a new QB.
Exactly
for Winnipeg Blue Bomber fans. How excited's Buck to have the reins of the offense and get after it?
Well, if you talk to anybody in this league, there's not one person that's going to say a bad thing about Buck Pierce. First of all, he's a prince of a human being, so there's a lot of people cheering for him. I know he's excited, man. He's probably been drawing up plays since even before Lapo left, right? I mean, he had to know he was an heir apparent, and Lapo's name had been linked to so many head coaching jobs. We asked him recently about this. When you have this much time off, does the playbook start getting thicker and thicker and thicker? Every time you watch a college game or an NFL game, you might be thinking, hey, we could use that, or maybe we'll use that play. That's a neat variation. But there comes a certain point where you can overwhelm players with too much stuff. So I think he's pretty jacked up about it. There's going to be a lot of people excited about August 5th, and for Buck Pierce to get back in the thick of it and be calling the plays is going to be fun for him too.
Well, Eddie, listen, we really appreciate you taking the time. Good luck to the Bombers as they get out there. Hopefully, after what happened, I'm rattled for what happened in Saskatchewan. And I'm a Bomber guy here in Winnipeg, but we just hope that, not just here, but everywhere, guys get through these workouts and get ready to get down to business. And listen, the countdown is on to August 5th. We'll hopefully catch up with you beforehand and find out a little bit more about tickets and everything that people need to know before they hopefully get that new shiny Vax card, flash it off with some ID, and get into that building. But in the meantime, we'll be paying attention to what's happening in camp, and cannot wait to see the champs finally get back on the field over at IGF and try and do it again.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. I went to the Valor game the other day, and it was just the same day that I got my little, not my card, but the virtual, I got 2 doses thing, and I just scanned it at the entrance, and it showed up. So if you want to get into the building, you got to get both vaccinations. And if you're a Bomber fan, August 5th can't come soon enough, but make sure that you're fully vaccinated to get into the building. It is going to be so much fun. The Valor game, like I said, it's just fun to be back there. And as you said, the first night with fans back the other night was so much fun just to hear them. I was watching and listening to them probably more often than I was watching the game, which is a bad thing for me. But it was just fun to see people back, and I can't imagine what it'd be like when the building is full again.
Well, it was such a glorious night. I think everyone that was there had a great feeling of being back there. And yes, the Valor Army, just the atmosphere of those games. Even if the crowd wasn't huge, with it being a 9 p.m. game and everything happened so quickly. And I'm the same way. I was very interested to see, what it would take to get in, and show your ID, flash it, scan, ticket in. It was super easy, and then once you got in, we're sitting there with no masks, enjoying the game. It was just like old times. And I got to tell you, I'm just speaking quickly of the soccer team. Despite getting robbed, as I mentioned on Wednesday night, what a great start for Rob and the boys. 3 straight wins to begin the season, and the team in their infancy had never won 2 in a row. A great start for Valor FC. How have you been enjoying being around the soccer club?
Oh, it's fun. It's a lot of fun. They've done a nice job of putting together a good team with a lot of different pieces. There's a lot of depth there. They haven't had a chance to get everybody available yet. One of their Mexican defenders, Rodrigo Reyes, has just been cleared, so he'll be available for Sunday. If you're not a soccer fan, you should come in and try to enjoy it because of the fan experience, as you mentioned, Huss. And if you're a soccer fan and you haven't been to a game yet, you should check it out because the skill level is really good. There's a lot of these guys that could probably be in the MLS, and I've really enjoyed it. I'm not just saying that. I enjoyed watching them last year from the Island Games and PEI, and it's really good soccer.
Well, and that infamous disallowed goal by that Brazilian dude, number 42, was, I mean, it was a world-class strike, and, which made the terrible call that much harder, I think, for everybody to swallow.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, 12:30, if you don't want to go Sunday at 12:30, I see Taylor's going to be there Sunday. Let's go. And it would have been nice if it was just a little earlier for those soccer fans that want to see Italy and England at 2 p.m. But I'll tell you what, I have a feeling there'll be plenty of people that'll finish that final gun after 90 minutes, rip over to Nicolino's or somewhere around there and watch the rest of the game. It'll be a great day for soccer fans here in the city. Ed, all the best to the Bombers as training camp gets going tomorrow. Thanks very much for your time. Hopefully we can do this soon, and we'll look forward to chopping it up before we get going with the Grey Cup rematch on August 5th right here in the Peg at IG Field.
Right on, Huss. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it. Right on, buddy.
Thanks so much. There he is, the one and only Ed Tait. Follow him on Twitter at EdTaitWFC. And if you go to BlueBombers.com right now, Ed has in-depth positional previews for all aspects of the Blue Bombers heading into training camp. And, of course, Ed will have daily reports on everything going on the Blue and Gold beginning tomorrow as training camp officially begins. And we can say the CFL is back. Thanks so much to Ed for popping by. Quick shout out to our friends at Assiniboia Downs. I know we are hoping to find out some good news on the restrictions loosening next week. Now, right now, the only way you can check out live racing is in the terrace dining room. There's a limited amount of seating for all the live racing nights, but you can get reservations. That's the only way to get them. So go to AssiniboiaDowns.com, asdowns.com, and set that up. But I'm hoping that next week we'll find out that those restrictions have been loosened. We'll actually be able to get out there, get a couple beers, sit outside, watch the races, bet on the races. In the meantime, you can do it at hpibet.com. And, of course, follow the guys every night on the Assiniboia Downs YouTube page as Kirk and Stretch do a great job promoting the upcoming races and give you a little bit of insight. Remis and I will get back after it next Monday for our duel at the Downs. And I'm in countdown mode. A week from today, I will finally be back at Aikens Lake. I am so excited to get back out there. I've had some of the best summer times of my life out there. World-class fly-in fishing lodge. Just you can be on the water in less than 2 hours from the city of Winnipeg. And if you've never been there, you're looking for a great holiday inside the province, check out AikensLake.com. Hit Pit Turan up on Twitter at Aikens Lake, and maybe we'll see you out there soon. You can follow me on social media at Hustleram. I'll be firing up some content from there on Friday and Monday. And next week, we'll tell you about a couple very special guest hosts that'll be filling in for me with Michael Remis next Friday and next Monday while we are out at Aikens. And I know I mentioned Royal Sports earlier as well today, but I can tell you, Greg just texted me. And I'm not sure if you can see this. Can you see that up there? I'm not sure whether that will actually come through. But the new Lightning Stanley Cup Championship T-shirts are in there. One says Tampa Bay Champions. The other one says Cup, Boat Parade, Repeat. Pretty cool one. So if you are a Lightning fan, you can get out there. And just got a picture of I guess they got some more Italy and England merchandise. If you're looking for an Italy or England jersey before Sunday, Royal Sports has a bunch of them, not to mention all the other great kits from the Euro and international soccer. So pop down there if you need in time for Sunday, supporting Italy or England. But I got to tell you, all those jerseys are so sweet. I'm a big fan of the soccer unis. But anyways, down there at Royal Sports, we told you about it before. We'll tell you about it again over at 750 Pembina Highway in time for kickoff on Sunday at 2 p.m. Cannot wait for that. We'll get to the Coolbet Lines in just a minute. Oh, and a special guest, a special event for everyone that's with us on YouTube. Once we finish the odds and a couple other things with Remis, we will have an unboxing, a very special unboxing to finish up the program here with everybody on YouTube. But in the meantime, let's get Michael Remis back in here. And while you're there, if you're with us, do us a favor, hit that thumbs up button. Can certainly use a few more likes to help boost the YouTube channel. Remo, great stuff from Aaron Bronsteter. I'm fired up for the UFC tomorrow night. It's always a big fight when McGregor's fighting, but I'm even more excited for CFL football to be back. And what a great chat with our good friend Ed Tait about all things Bombers and CFL heading into tomorrow's big day.
Yes, it's finally here. The countdown is on. August 5th, Bombers. More importantly, CFL fantasy, CFL betting, a lot of stuff we can talk about, but great to hear Ed some good insight. The kicking, I think, is the one where major change, and I agree with Ed. I know it was a lot to pay for Medlock, but he was worth whatever he made. He was
every
worth
penny. Every penny.
I mean, you would get over the 50-yard line, and he was right. You'd be in field goal range, and they could do things the other teams couldn't do in terms of offense. You could just take the automatic points every time. So that is going to be a big change. So all eyes will be on it because they don't have a backup, it seems like. So it's going to be the Leggio kicking, right?
Yeah, which is a great name for a kicker. I know it's Leggio, but it really should be Leg or Leggio. And he'll just be referred to probably as Leg. And he has a big leg, as Ed Tait mentioned. There's some wild kicks of him showing his stuff from his days at Western. Or I love when you see like workout videos of guys running fast, there's no better video on the internet than a kicker, maybe with a bit of wind behind him, blasting like 70 and 75-yard field goals from the other end. And Leggio has apparently been able to do that. The big issue, though, is making sure it goes through the uprights. And that was the thing that Justin Medlock did better than anybody.
Yeah, and he also not only did he kick us, he punted too. So dual threat. Guy, Bombers legend, that's for sure. Definitely, the kicking was rough for a while. He came in, they get the kicking sorted out, and win a Grey Cup. Obviously, a lot of other parts came together. Defense, offense, all great. I mean, on all facets, they were awesome. So hopefully we can see a repeat this year. That would be great.
All right. Before we get to Coolbet, we can tell you, unfortunately, Denis Shapovalov's Wimbledon run is over. With that missed opportunity and losing that first set in a tiebreak was, really tough for Shapo, who was serving for the first set. But man, what a run for the young Canadian. He loses 7-6, 7-5, 7-5 to world number 1 Novak Djokovic. His best performance ever at Wimbledon. The final now will be Djokovic and the Italian Berrettini, the 7th seed. That will go on Sunday. Sorry, go ahead, Reem.
I was going to say, we did have some hockey news. Got to give a shout out to BA Split in the chat. I don't know if you saw this. Should I pull it up here, Huss? You ready for this one?
Let's do it.
All right, Nikita Kucherov signed a deal with Bud Light, according to his agent, Hockey Agent One on Twitter. So there's Kucherov on his way to becoming this year's Ovi at the parade on Monday.
Well, we'll see. And you pointed this out to me, and this is sort of neat. I mean, as I said yesterday, Cooch sort of played the heel role with that wild promo after they won the cup, taking a shot at Fleury and Hellebuck and Canadians fans, rubbed some people the wrong way. Certainly got a lot of people talking about it, which I don't think is a bad thing. But Igor Larionov Jr., Remo, tweeted out that, and again, I'm not as familiar with Igor Larionov Jr., son of the great Igor Larionov, but apparently Kucherov FaceTimed Igor and was just yelling in Russian, "I love you, you're my idol," and that party. Oh, there it is right now. I was at dinner with my dad yesterday, and he got a FaceTime call from a random number. He picks it up, and it's Nikita Kucherov with the Stanley Cup. Kuch shouts something in Russian about 6 times. The translation of that is, "You're my idol. Thank you. Coolest thing witnessed." So, while he rubbed some people the wrong way, it's obvious that he is truly enjoying another championship. And this one, you can tell for the Lightning, a little bit different, having won it the way they did in a building with fans. And I would imagine that party and the parade on Monday is going to be big time. Now, I wonder if it's going to be a regular parade or where they'll do the boat parade again last year, which was quite interesting.
I'm assuming there's going to be Sea-Doos involved, although the players probably won't be able to drive them, so I take that back. But they will. I'm sure they'll be on some type of boat. We'll see what Pat Maroon. We love covering the parades because it always comes with some hilarity. I remember John Quick or Brad Marchand, or just some highlights of recent Cup champions. I think Corey Crawford too. Didn't he drop some F-bombs as well?
Oh yeah.
So there's
no
always...
one was good. No one was good as Chase Utley though.
Ovechkin. Ovechkin. That was so amazing, Ovechkin. So we'll see what Kucherov can do. Tom Brady, of course, last year in the Stanley Cup, tweeting out, "You can't throw me" at Tom Brady. So. I'm excited for their parade. Good for them. They were the best team and we'll see what they do, with the expansion draft and the offseason to try to make it a not 1, not 2, but 3 peat.
Yeah. Well, listen, I'm happy the series is over. I'm done with the Lightning. I'm done with the Habs. I'm done with 2021, and we are on to the 2021-22 season. And listen, the next few weeks is going to be fascinating. We've got the expansion draft on the 21st, where Seattle will select their players. That's going to affect every team in the National Hockey League. And a few days before that, I guess actually next weekend, the protected list will be publicized. So guys will be talking about that on Monday's show and Tuesday before, of course, it goes down on Monday. One other bit on hockey today, Rima. Habs did their final meetings with the media. Jeff Petrie finally talked about the bloodshot eyes that he had, and that was kind of everywhere on social media when he returned to the lineup. It's sort of crazy how he got those, Reem. Apparently, he passed out after they had to pop his pinky finger back into the socket. Yikes.
Yeah, they said he needed surgery. He just played with his pinky finger taped to his fourth finger. Man, hockey players, these guys are crazy. So that's how you got the Jeff. Good to know the backstory on the Jeff Petrie eyes. I mean, we did get a couple other notes. Corey Perry says he wants to be back in Montreal. Says he wants the full Montreal experience, with fans next year. I mean, that was a huge signing for them for like min-sal with like $800K.
$750 or whatever.
Yeah,
$800,000. I mean,
worth it. Eric Stahl, who they got at the deadline, he said, he's got to talk with his family before he decides to come back. And Phil Deneau said he turned down some offers for pizza endorsements during the Stanley Cup. I guess didn't want to be a distraction, or he was too busy playing games every second night to do a pizza deal. I wonder if it's kind of cool. I mean, the time to do the pizza deal is like right after, like walk off the press bar and then sign the pizza deal, send out a tweet. I mean, what more do you need to do? I wonder if the appetite for maybe starting next season, you can still do a pizza deal in Montreal.
Well, here's the thing. Is he going to be back with Montreal?
Also
I mean,
true.
The three guys you just mentioned, Eric Stahl, Corey Perry, and Phil Deneau, all with expiring contracts. And Deneau apparently turned down a $5 million AAV long-term contract from the Canadiens. And that's interesting. I mean, I'd say in some ways it's sort of risky, but listen, I mean, even though he didn't do a lot offensively, he was such a huge part of what the Canadiens were able to do in the first 3 rounds, especially against the Vegas Golden Knights, that I think his value is maybe as high as ever. And what did Mike Kelly say with this, Reem? We were talking about Deneau, and Mike Kelly, from his perspective, said if it's anything under $6 million, he's all in on Phil Deneau. And you wonder whether that fits in Montreal, or whether there'd be another team out there that's got, a lot of high-end offensive talent that identifies Deneau as a guy that can maybe put them over the top as far as neutralizing the best players on the other team. Because let's face it, that's exactly what he did against the Maple Leafs. He did it against the Jets, despite Mark Scheifele obviously being out of the final 3 games of this series, and completely frustrated Mark Stone and the Vegas Golden Knights. And, might not have the big offensive numbers, but I can tell you there's head coaches and GMs that would love to get Deneau in. Fascinated to see how many years and what the term he gets, and whether it's the Montreal Canadiens that can keep him with his original club.
Yeah, we'll have to see. And I think he opened a lot of eyes of his value, and I think he said that today. And again, shutting down Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner, and then the Jets really not being able to do much, and then Vegas. I mean, 3 times those are high-powered offenses that were just stopped. Although Toronto was pretty good in the first couple of games, and then the last they petered out at the end. So yeah, that's one other thing we'll see. And one other hockey note. This is still Canadiens related. Joel Bouchard, now the head coach of the San Diego Gulls of the AHL. He replaces Kevin Dineen. And Joel Bouchard was previously with the Laval Rocket, the Montreal AHL team. So I know a lot of guys. I saw Jake Evans, giving a lot of credit to Joel Bouchard. He's being very highly praised. So highly praised that Dallas Aikens, now trending on Twitter, he's the coach of the Ducks, saying Joel Bouchard is coming for his job. So that's some other hockey coaching news.
Well, and I should give a thanks to, I think it was BA that just popped this in there. Or no, it was Jason Jett who let us know the Bombers just announced a bunch of transactions. Here they are. This is just hot off the press from the Bombers. They've added 3 players to the roster, 2 more DBs. I guess that makes 29 from our conversation with Eddie. Maybe these guys were included. But anyways, American DB David Rivers, American DB Hakeem Bailey, and American linebacker Kylan Curse-Thomas have all been added to the roster. American defensive lineman Royce LaFrance released from the roster. Patrick Chuda, American defensive end, has been transferred to the retired list. And this is interesting, transferred to the suspended list. I'm not sure whether these guys are signed and didn't show up or exactly what, but you've got Canadian Connor Griffiths and then Americans, DB Dexter McDougall, linebacker Mason Moe, receiver Mikhail McKay, running back James Williams, running back Josh Caldwell, defensive ends Vontarius Dora, defensive back Marwin Edwins, and receiver Malcolm Lewis. And Remo, I would expect that over the course of the next 48 hours, we'll be seeing a ton of these announcements from teams around the league, because there was a big question as to, with all the players signed, the players that you were expected, how many of them were actually going to be there, because there was some public retirements and there was a number of players that had big question marks as to whether they'd be showing up for their respective teams. And I think this is going to be something that a lot of the clubs are dealing with to begin camp this weekend.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see, as training camp moves along, maybe what you think the roster is going to look like at the start of training camp is nothing like, before the start of the season with cuts and I guess guys on the suspended list. Maybe people try to play and they're like, you know what, I don't have it this year, and they got to retire or sit out. And then also injuries, as we saw in Saskatchewan, 3 guys hurting their Achilles. And someone did post in the chat, it was with a drill involving a medicine ball. So I'll have to read more about that before I make any determinations, but I don't think I'll be picking up a medicine ball anytime soon myself.
All right, we do have a very special unboxing in a moment. First, let's get to the Coolbet lines for the weekend, brought to you by our friends at Coolbet. If you haven't already, maybe you want to make a wager on Italy or England, the McGregor fight, some NHL futures, the Jets to win the cup next year. It's all there at Coolbet. If you haven't played before, use promo code WST. You'll get a 100% bonus on your first deposit up to $200. Big win last night for the Phoenix Suns. They're up 2-0 in the NBA Finals. The series shifts back to Wisconsin for game number 3 on Sunday night. Bucks 4-point favorites at home, -182 on the money line, and the Suns. I'm still a believer. Suns in 4 could happen. If you like that, Suns +154 on the money line, or you can hit them on the spread at +4. Right now, the winner of the series, if you think the Milwaukee Bucks can come back, +370 on your cash. Phoenix -526. And a series sweep right now opened at +825. It's +420. Interesting for the Phoenix Suns. Moving on to Euro. Final match is Sunday. Italy and England. The 90-minute odds are as follows. Full-time Italy +221, a draw +195, and England +162. The total is 2. If you like the under, you can get -118. If you like the over, it's +101. Obviously, 2 goals would be a push. And the outright winner of Euro 2022, this would include extra time. This would include penalty kicks if it goes to it. Italy +105, England -118. I'm riding with the Italians on Sunday at +105. And this is an interesting one. Dusty and I went into it a little bit today on the Lock Shop. Also, don't mind Italy as the most scoring team in the tournament. You've got Spain at +100, Italy at +105, and England at 950. Going into the final game, Spain has 13 goals, Italy has 12, and England has 10. So, I mean, it would mean 3 or 4 goals for England to actually win it. But, I mean, really, a bet on Italy at +105 is betting them to get a goal. If they tied Spain, I imagine the amount you'd win would be chopped, but it would still be, a plus net for you. And if Italy scores 2 goals, you're winning it. So +105, don't mind that as well. Cannot wait for the tournament to end. And it'll do it in a fashion that I think is going to get this entire city and a lot of the pubs rocking on Sunday afternoon. And to finish it up, let's go to UFC. We talked about it with Aaron Bronsteter earlier on today. Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier. Interesting. We talked about how we thought this line might be moving in favor of McGregor. Just over the course of this program, it's actually moved in favor of Poirier. He was -125. He's now -130. McGregor's at +120. I think that if you want Poirier, you might want to wait on that a little longer. But if you are on Conor McGregor, I don't think you're going to get a better number than plus 120. That's available right now at Coolbet. Other interesting fights, we talked about Greg Hardy and Tai Tuivasa. Plus 129 for Hardy, minus 152 for Tuivasa, and the exact same number on the Burns Wonderboy Thompson fight, 129 plus for Burns and minus 152 for the Wonderboy. That's all on Saturday night. Unfortunately, bars are closing at 10, so you won't be able to go out and watch it, but maybe get some boys together, hook it up on pay-per-view. It should be good. Where are you on that one? McGregor, Poirier, Remo, who you got?
I'm going with Poirier. I'll listen to Aaron. He knows more than me, and I think McGregor, while he's entertaining, I'm not a huge fan of his. I don't know. So.
Yeah, no, he is entertaining, but you also like to see him get his clock cleaned. I think a lot of people will be pulling for Poirier on the weekend.
Screw that guy, right?
It should be good. All right, Reem, anything that you would like to cover before we get to the finish off the week with an unboxing?
Did you wanted to touch on that guy who hit the Grand Slam, the Padres guy?
Oh my God, yes. Last night. Okay, so I'm watching the game with a friend over at the Wood, and we're paying attention to the basketball game. But the Jays were rained out, so they had the Washington Nationals and Padres game on. And what happened next was simply incredible. 8-0 lead for the Nats. San Diego gets going. Tatis hits a bomb, and it gets them to, I think, got to 8-1. So they they're moving through. Max Scherzer is in. He's dealing on the mound. The Padres, because they got roughed up, have gone into the bullpen. They've used pinch hitters already. So they've got a new reliever in, and they're planning on him going a couple innings. So they leave him in. So with Daniel Camarena playing his second major league game, had just been called up. Apparently he's a hometown guy from the Southern California, the San Diego area. He gets up in his second game ever played with the bases loaded and goes deep with a grand slam off Max Scherzer. It was part of an 8-run comeback. They ended up winning in extras 9-8. Did it off Max Scherzer. And Remo Camarena, the first reliever in the majors to hit a grand slam since 1985. I tweeted out a couple videos of this last night. The reactions of his family were absolutely amazing. Really a once-in-a-million shot from this guy, and got it done. Big win for the Padres, but really the great story in sports from last night.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible, and we will be tuning in to, I guess on Monday, the Home Run Derby. Maybe we can make some picks for that. But everyone watching Shohei Ohtani, I think he is the name to watch. I did see someone tweet that he hasn't taken batting practice once this year, which is insane. So he's an awesome player, and we're looking forward to that. Hard to believe we're at the All-Star break. This is like the dead time for sports, the only thing going on, usually just CFL, but it seems like we still got the NBA finals, hockey, off-season hot stuff. We got stuff going on, a little UFC here, so we're making our way through it.
Well, absolutely. Of course, Bomber training camp next week, and we'll start kind of looking ahead to the expansion draft, and we're going to come right out of that next weekend and be ready to see who the Jets are losing, who's on Seattle. And then the draft is 2 days later. So, yeah, a little bit of a downtime for a week or two, but things are going to get cooking again here on Winnipeg Sports Talk and in the sports world. I see Jeff Cabela, Slam Diego is right. And he kind of got in. And the coolest thing about it, Reem, is, they have got that massive chain, like the turnover chain in football. Well, they've got, I don't know what they call it, a big play chain, but it's got a massive Padres, pendant on it. And they threw it on him when he went back to the dugout. So pretty cool event. Jeff Cabela's that call was awesome, and off Scherzer was all pitchers, no doubt. And listen, the ball was out of the strike zone. It was a bizarre. Anyways, you got to see it for yourself. Last night's game, San Diego and Washington. All right, Remo, I think it's time for, we haven't done an unboxing for a while, and I've been waiting for this item to come in. I still have not yet opened it because I figured that the that our Winnipeg Sports Talk YouTubers would love to see it. Are you ready?
Yes, I would like to see this item. You've been hyping it up for a long time.
All right, everybody.
I put you on full screen so everyone can see.
Here it is, full screen.
Okay.
The package came yesterday. I've been waiting to open it here. Another official Winnipeg Sports Talk unboxing. I think I know what this is. We're going to pull it out. We've got, oh, look at this. Expertly packed by the guys over at Break Kings. Now, I will say this. My pal Dustin Nielsen, my partner from the Lock Shop, and of course the one of the voices of the CFL on TSN as well. Dusty is a huge card guy. And he'd been doing some breaks. So I said, well, what the heck? I'll go in one of your breaks. And I mean, I'm really more into the Jets cards than any others. I mean, you know, like to get a good rookie card or something like that of a player, but main focus is the Jets. So when he's doing them, I'll often buy the Jets. Now, this card, it comes from, I want to say like the some Upper Deck Exquisite or something like that. I honestly don't know. But here it is. We'll pull it up. Pull this away. And the official, I got to get this. Here we are. Okay, pulling it off. Look at this beauty, everybody. The signed Sami Niku autographed UD canvas out of 83. And what's amazing about this card, and unfortunately, this is probably the way many of us will remember Sammy, is in a suit walking up to the press box. But heck of a card. Nice signature by Sammy as well. 48 out of 83. So there is our unboxing today. What a card. Autographed Sami Niku. We'll see if he's a Jet going forward. Everyone seems to love it up in the chat. Remo, you're a big card guy. What do you think about my new acquisition that I got in this break?
It's actually even better that he's in a suit than actually playing hockey. If he was playing hockey, it wouldn't be that good. But the fact that he's like in this suit, looking good in the dressing room,
look at that hair.
It does kind of sum up like his time with the Jets. I'm sure maybe it was tough for them to find one of him on the ice. I have no idea. And I think, and he was on Frank Saravalli's, trade list. He was like number 20 on his top 20 trade targets. So we'll see what his future holds in Winnipeg. But he put up some points in the AHL. Didn't really crack the lineup on a regular basis here in Winnipeg. And I think his card there. What set is that from?
Here, so this is from, I'm just going to read the back here, Upper Deck Canvas, Sami Niku. So I guess this is the 2018 or 2019 Upper Deck Exquisite, or maybe the Earl of Eli, if he's with us, he'll know. But yeah, 2017, 2018 Jets, 1 game played, 1 goal, 1 point. Not bad. Not bad for his debut. I kind of forgot that he scored in his first game.
That was against Montreal, yeah, brother.
Yeah, it was. And it says, congratulations, you have received a trading card autographed by Sami Niku in the presence of an upper representative of Upper Deck Company and provided the certificate to its authenticity by Sami Niku. Enjoy your autographed card. So, you know what? If this is the end of the road for Sammy in Winnipeg, we'll always have this beautiful memento of Sammy's time here with great hair. His hair actually is relatively short for Sammy and all of that, but I don't know. Who knows? Maybe, stranger things have happened. Logan Stanley turned into a stud for the Jets this year on the blue line. Maybe Sammy, due to some way, gets a shot with the Jets next year. Someone gets picked up, and I think we'd all love to see him play a little bit, but not sure whether that's going to be in the cards. But speaking of the cards, there you have it. There's the unboxing. We said we'd have some fun, and it seems like a lot of people enjoyed that. Remo, bring out the Burmy. Yeah, this one's right there. And Andrew Kaleko, absolutely nice suit. Hey, he looks resplendent on this. So there's a new one for the collection. Sami Niku, signed 48 out of 83, which of course was his number with the Winnipeg Jets. Remo, what's up for the weekend? You hitting the zoo again or what?
That's a good hit, man. Last weekend we're going to was way too hot. Last weekend it was actually like nuts out. So I'm what's this forecast here? Ooh, it's going to be hot again. 32, 34 are the highs. Ooh.
Are you serious?
Yeah, apparently right now it's like 29 outside, and I'm here wearing a hoodie in my basement. Winnipeg Sports Talk hoodie, by the way, now available.
Store is open.
At
Store is
store.
open and available right now.
I know
WinnipegSportsTalk.com. Hit store.
Yeah, I know those items are being shipped out, so stay tuned. I got a friend in from out of town. A lot of my friends moved to Toronto area, Hamilton, and they haven't been here for like a year and a half. So now they're kind of
Could be a gathering.
There
Could be a gathering.
I'm hoping to have an outdoor gathering Saturday for the fight. Trying to find a way to hook that up. So that's what I would like to do. The rest of that, I'm not sure. Maybe some landscaping, some yard work. Hoping to have a guy come down and grind a couple tree stumps, and we'll see.
Are we ever going to call parties anymore? Or are they now officially gatherings?
100% gathering. Large scale sporting event gatherings. Yeah, I'm in for gatherings. I'm here to call everything. I think maybe more than 10 people you can call it a party, but not quite yet. The one thing I hope that doesn't go away is those markers on the floor where to stand in line. Those are the best. Those. Okay.
You want your personal space.
I went to Sev the other week, and first of all, Winnipeg was like 25th, 26th year in a row Slurpee capital.
Every year.
So like, do they even bother tallying it, or they just give it to Winnipeg?
Listen, we got the belts. We're the Slurpee capital, the murder capital, the COVID capital. We got it all. All we need is a Stanley Cup to go with the Grey Cup here, and we'd be the best at everything. So, some of the ones you don't really want to be the best in, but unfortunately, we have been.
I will say, I remember I would go wait in line like on a hot day for a Slurpee, and like people were like jammed together waiting. But now they got the spots in line, and you know where to stand. You got your personal space, and I think that goes not just there, like the post office, anywhere. They have the lines on the floor where to stand. I think those are here to stay. Those are excellent. Also, I don't want to have to shake sweaty hands with anyone after a sporting event ever. I said this before. Like how disgusting is that? Like you play hockey against a team, you take off your gross, disgusting glove. I air out my hockey equipment. I don't trust that people on the other team are. And to shake a guy's hand, that is gross. I never want to do that again.
That was a take I wasn't expecting. No more shaking hands in sports.
I had softball. We didn't shake hands after. It's sick.
Hygiene over sportsmanship, people. Courtesy of the CTO, Michael Remis.
What am I, shaking a guy's hand who's been in his gross baseball glove all game, like in 30-degree heat? No, please, come on.
I think we're a fist pump society now.
Yeah. Fist bump. Yes, I'm happy to do that. I'm okay with that. But like, I don't need to put my gross palm after a sporting event inside someone else's. That's not necessary. It's like, hey, see ya. We had a good game. We played nice. See you next time.
This is some wonderful. I meant Remo. Nothing worse than getting hit in the heels with a shopping cart. That's from Leighton. Yes. Bardo. Me. I love Sammy, and Sammy loves Winnipeg, the only Jet to stay in the peg for the whole pandemic. That is true, and does have a young child here in Winnipeg as well. So, again, I think a lot of us would, you know the talent of this guy, and you'd love to see him get a chance to, to play in the NHL, especially as a man that has this signed rookie card numbered to 83. I now really need Sammy to get a chance to show what he can do in the NHL.
That's a rookie? I just thought it was a standard canvas card.
No. This is a rookie. Again, keep in mind, 1 game, 1 goal. Like this is from 2018 or 2019.
I thought it was his like standard card. Does it say young gun on it or no?
No, it's the upper deck canvas. Although I think I do have the young gun as well.
I got an Andrew
more exclusive. They don't have the young guns in these cards. They have like signed cards and whatnot. As I said, at some point during this downtime, a little slow, we'll get one of the card guys to come in and give us a full rundown on what's happening in the industry, because it has gone absolutely crazy over the course of the pandemic.
Leighton Janis wants to make a trade with you for that card. He says, let him know.
Well, Leighton, I'm, we can maybe make a deal. Although I have been very excited to get this one. This is my big one from it. Hey, we've got some more takes on this.
Jason Jett says, this is from the Winnipeg Jets rumor mill. True story. My buddy saw Niku and Vesa, I'm assuming Vesa line out at Walmart, buying tennis rackets last month. They weren't going to Royal to get tennis rackets? Come on, guys.
We should have tipped them off. Come on, guys. You don't need to do that. Remo's bang on. The Remo rants are excellent. That won't happen anymore, Reem. Personal space is very important at a sausage fest.
That's right.
18 over par. The fist pump is enough. And death to handshakes. And by the way, 18 over par podcast. Check that out. Coming out on Sunday night. Had a real fun hour or so with the guys yesterday, talking about how we started this, talking golf, talking condiments. It was a heck of a lot of fun. All right, everyone. Well, I think that's going to do it for us. I'm not done yet, though. I will be on Sportsnet 960 for 3 hours, beginning, I guess, at 4 o'clock our time. So in about 1 hour from now, if you want to join us for that. But we'll be back on Monday. I'll be Monday to Thursday next week. We'll let you know about our guest hosts when we get going on Monday's show. But other than that, thanks for being with us. Big thanks to Aaron Bronsteter and Ed Tait. Of course, Royal Sports, you can pop down and grab those Euro jerseys, Italy, England, before the big game on Sunday if you need one. Nick and Nicky DQ Group, Boston Pizza, Not Autocorp, Little Brown Jug. Mix in one of these, maybe a couple of these this weekend. The Summer Lager, highly recommended. Breezy Bend, Aikens Lake, Assiniboia Downs, and CoolBet.com. For Michael Remis, I'm Andrew Paterson. Have a wonderful weekend. Thanks for the support, everyone. And we'll see you here back Monday on your favorite podcast feed and right here on YouTube on Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Enjoy.
Oh, my God. Oh! Shut it down. Let's go home.
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.